Hi, I'm Anne-Claire Levy with the March for Life, and I'm joined today by Carol Long, who is having an impactful message for the pro-life movement and creating a powerful representation of the heartbreaking effect abortion has had on our nation since the decision of Roe v. Wade in 1973. So, Carol, thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for all the work that you're doing in the pro-life movement.
Well, thank you for having me on this venue, because I really do know that it's strictly a grassroots movement, and I need to get the word out. That's how you do it with a grassroots movement. And I started this a year ago. I had no idea if it would succeed. It was an idea that I dwelled on for a couple of months and decided to go forward with. And because I am a person of faith, I thought, if it's supposed to happen, it's going to happen. I've had amazing results from my efforts. First of all, I've thought about the pro-life movement almost every year in January. I would always post something on my Facebook to my friends. And even though I tried to make a point that it was really important, and I knew in a way, I was kind of preaching to the choir, because most of my friends are conservatives and pro-life, although I do have a mixture of friends. And I saw that it just wasn't getting it across like I wanted to. Not that I expected them to say all kinds of things. It just wasn't enough. And we'd talk about the numbers, and they just don't look very big. On a page, they're that big. And it's 61 million. So what? 61 million. That's doesn't seem like a lot to some people. So to backtrack a little bit, I took up knitting again. I wanted to start doing something for children's hospitals and preemies and places where they need knitted caps and blankets and that sort of thing. So I started enjoying it. I had learned 50 years ago how to knit a little bit, but I took it up again and I was really enjoying it. So I decided that my college grandson, who just started, needed an Afghan for his dorm room. So I found the colors of his school and I made an Afghan for him in the school. And as I did this, I thought about him, every little stitch. I was thinking about him, and because I wanted to present it to him and let him know whether it's important to him now or not. Maybe in the future he'll remember that his Mimi made this for him, and that she thought about him and his childhood and his growing up as she did so. So after I finished that, I still wanted to go back to the charity knitting. But we come into January then, and I'm, so Roe v. Wade is on my mind, and all of the pro-life thing is on my mind. And I thought, I wonder if anybody has ever made a memorial blanket for I started calling them NeverBorns. Unborn didn't quite sound right. That sounded more like a baby that was actually still a fetus. So the NeverBorns. And so I started researching it, and I didn't see anything like that. So I kind of decided to put it out to my friends. Well, actually, I only put it out to my friends after I realized the enormous task it was going to be if I tried to do it myself. My grandson's blanket was like 90,000 stitches. And I thought, well, we only need around 61 million. Can I do that? So I started putting pen to paper and realized that it was an impossible task for one person. It would take me, at the rate that I knit, another 70 years. If I did it nonstop, 24/7, it was going to take 9 years. And so these numbers just started really making an impact. And I thought, there's no way I can do it. But instead of giving up, I thought, well, maybe I can get some help. Maybe some of my friends and some of their friends, we can start putting this out. And so I kind of figured up every square that was knitted, like the pink one I'm wearing now, and then this is one I'm working on to put a symbol. They contain over 7,000 stitches. And I don't know if your audience can see this, but knit stitches are pretty small. Every stitch standing for and representing a NeverBorn. 61 million of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it grew. And I started figuring how big would the blanket be. And based on the squares, I had over 7,000 in a 15 by 15 square. And just not to bore you with the math, but it rounded up, it came out to needing 10,000 squares to put it together. 10,000 squares of 15 by 50. It's a third of an acre. It was huge. It's larger than an Olympic size swimming pool. If it were all, put together, if it was stitched end to end, just one single stitch, it would be several miles. And I thought, well, this would be a good visual representation of how many babies have been aborted since 1973. And that's just in the United States. I wasn't trying to do a global event or any of that. I just since Roe v. Wade, which has impacted our society beyond belief. Mm-hmm. I don't even like to think of everything that's come from that decision. So I put it up to my Facebook friends, mm-hmm. and I got a few responses, but then it wasn't, I knew I don't have a big list. It's just family and really close friends. So my youngest son is in internet advertising, mm-hmm. and he suggested that I use Facebook marketing. And I kind of looked into it, and he kind of gave me the ins and outs of doing that. So I did. I put it out there, put an ad up for about a week, and it was pretty well broad. I didn't really narrow it down a lot at that point. And I started getting all these responses, and I was prepared for it. I had done my own prep work ahead of time. So, the first thing I would do is somebody would send me an email. I was able to make a website. Mm-hmm. And so I promoted the website, I promoted the Facebook page, and I started getting all these replies, and I would put everybody's name down in my phone. My phone has approximately 1,200 names of people that I only know about 5. So I would put that down. They send me an email through the contact page of my website and tell me what they want to do, if they want to knit or crochet, mm-hmm. And how many they think that they can do personally. And so it started coming together. And now, fast forward, a year later, I have approximately 1,200 people helping me make this blanket. And it's 80% pledged. And by mm-hmm. pledges, I don't mean I've received all of them. I've only received at this point about 30%. I'm assembling them as fast as I can. And if you can kind of see over my shoulder here, that's a couple of the blankets mm-hmm. that I have put together, and then they're put together. I sew the shoulders, and I have mm-hmm. front and back, and I want them to be worn in a pro-life march, if possible. And then whatever happens to the blankets later can be determined by whatever's going to happen. As I said, I'm a person of faith, and I'm organizing this, I'm supervising it, but I'm not really the one in charge. And so I'm just kind of waiting for things to happen. I'll step out, I'll do that act of faith to go forward and say, okay, well, maybe I'll try this. And if it doesn't work, it's a very organic process. And mm-hmm. so when I waited until after the 2020 march for the March for Life. I had seen the one previously in 2019, and I was just blown away. I think it was only like a street camera that showed mm-hmm. the whole entire march. And I was just, it just went on and on and on. Even, I was just amazed at how many people were there. And I thought, well, the way I figured it up, it's going to take about 500 people to wear these ponchos like I'm wearing. 500 people. And I start thinking, and then I look at the March for Life that you had here in 2020, and I started counting really quickly across the road. And I see like 25, people abreast. And then I think, oh, okay. So I figured it up. 20 rows of 25 people. That's still how big we're talking. And we're talking, they were all kind of jammed up. If you, give a little space and people could kind of spread their wings, out a little bit, join hands or whatever, that blanket would be, well, you can kind of get a size of the blanket just from that. And remember, these are just every little stitch that represents a NeverBorn. So that's kind of how it's progressed. I need 20% more pledged. Mm-hmm. And also I'm looking to find people that will wear the blanket. The women who, and I say primarily women because that seems to be the majority. I was able to target on my Facebook, I was able to start targeting people that would be more inclined to want to do something like this. And it kind of, the age level raised a little bit because sometimes the older women have a little more time to do stuff. But on the other hand, we don't always have the circumstances that would allow for us to be in a march. So, I think I can do one. I did one in Little Rock this year for my very first pro-life march. And to kind of just scope out what's all this about. And had I had 500 people that knew about it, I could have, well, no, I couldn't have because the blanket's not finished. But but that's ultimately my goal, is to see this since March for Life is where it is and what it is, I'd love to see it in the March for Life. So I would love any of your people that are members or whatever, to contact me, especially if they have a group. Like if they're bringing a busload or 2 busloads, and I could get blankets to them ahead of time, because logistically, unless I can find people from your organization that can give me help in the logistics, trying to get a huge truckload of boxes, and I don't even see my box back here. That's number 25. Well, I need 125 of these boxes in a truck to distribute the whole blanket. Right. And, I don't know Washington, D.C. except as a tourist. I've just been there briefly and to the main highlights. So I wouldn't know logistically how to tell people where to meet me and how to coordinate it in that respect and get it distributed and get it back to me. So I'm thinking that if I can approach smaller groups, like I said, people that are taking bus loads or schools. I'd love for younger people to be able to wear this, in the college age, or the ones that represent, because to me, it's a nice balance of most of us grandmothers versus, all the kids that are the age of our grandkids. I would love that.
And it's also showing the just vast generations that have been affected by abortion. Yes. It affects yours and it affects down to mine. So
right.
It's such a beautiful display.
I started having children in 1974. So I had a choice. I didn't even think about it at the time. It wasn't something I would consider. But I remind my children of that every year. Hey, your mom had a choice and she chose life. So anybody that's under the age of 47 should go and thank their mother, because their mother had a choice and she chose life.
That's very true. So one of my questions for you is, when you personally are knitting your squares for the blanket, what are thoughts that are going through your head? Every single stitch is representing a life loss to abortion. Right. And even when making your square, which it's about 7,000 stitches, you said, per square. So what are thoughts that go through your head?
Well, as far as myself, I would think it's hard for me to stay totally focused, but it's always about what can I do to promote the blanket, to get it out there so people can see this and be impacted by it. But yes, a lot of the women have told me that they will knit it or crochet it much as a prayer shawl.
Mm-hmm.
And that they think about, what it's done for these women. I may get into that in a moment, but it's also a totally unexpected result of my efforts here. And it's phenomenal. But I still get amazed at looking at these squares and thinking about what they represent. And that's why I want it to be a memorial blanket. It's more than just a pro-life or anti-abortion statement. It's a memorial blanket. It's meant to honor those lost souls.
Right. Do you think that this has created a community of people who want to remember these lives lost, and created a community within the pro-life movement for all the participants you have?
Yes, I would say it has. And if I can, kind of what I was about to say, what I did not expect was the notes and the both in emails and when little notes enclosed when they send me their squares about how much it has meant to these women.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are doing it. There's a lot of reasons. Some of them because it is pro-life. Some of them have had abortions and regret that. And they want to do that, not to kind of make up for the fact, but just to their change of heart. And it's a type of healing for them to be able to know that they can do something. Some women thought originally that the memorial blanket was for babies that were wanted, that were miscarried. And I said, no, that's not really the purpose. But, since it is growing organically, it was, if you want to honor that child, put a ribbon on it, put a little ribbon on the square. And so they'll send me their square and they'll have a little pink or blue or white ribbon on it. And so that's honoring more than one. But again, it's the memorial blanket. The women, as I said, some of them say it's healing. Some of them do it in honor of their own children and grandchildren because they want to honor life in that way, but they're doing it to memorialize the babies that never had the chance to be wrapped in the warmth of the blanket. Mm-hmm. And I get these, so many, I think what surprised me is so many people say, thank you for the opportunity that you've given me. And I'm thinking, what? They're helping me. This is wonderful, but they're thanking me for the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I'm just totally amazed by that. And I guess grateful that I've helped them in some way. I didn't know that was going to be a result of my effort.
So. That's beautiful. Well, if there are any people watching who would like to participate either by supporting you, helping create the remaining squares for the memorial blanket, or even would like to maybe carry it at their own local march or at the National March for Life here in DC, how can they learn more? How can they get involved and sign up to be a part of this?
Well, the best way is to go to my website, and that is NeverBorn Blanket, all one word, NeverBornBlanket.com. I don't know if you have a means of putting that up for me somewhere on.
We will put that in the description of the
Okay. If they will go there, there is a contact page, and that contact page allows them to sign up their name, state. I don't ask for addresses. I'm not, and I do ask for your email, but I don't misuse this. I'm not out to market this thing. I'm just wanting volunteers. I don't ask for funding, anything. These women have been giving from their hearts. Mm-hmm. They've been supplying all the necessary and mailing these things, and that's not cheap anymore. Even as light as a square can be, it's a labor of love from all of these people. And anyway, if they could go to the contact page, they can sign up. They can tell me whether they want to knit or crochet, how many they think they can do, and there's a comment page. If they don't want to participate from doing something for the blanket, but they want to be able to wear it, they can let me know there, and I will contact them when the time, especially, and I'm not trying to single out individuals. Oh, yes, I'd love to wear it. I'd love to wear this. Trying to get individuals together is possible, but it would be difficult. So if they are part of a larger group, whether it be a school or a church or a synagogue, whatever, whatever, any kind of women's organization, a knitting group, I don't know, anybody that is involved in and wants to be doing these marches, and they want to wear the blanket, I will say, we were probably one of the warmer people at the Little Rock. You're wearing this over your normal cold weather clothes there in January. So, we stayed nice and toasty. So, they can contact me through the website on the contact page. That's really the easiest way. There's also an email address on the website. So any of those ways. And I encourage them. I do have a Facebook page. That's usually where I acknowledge and give kudos to the people that have sent me squares. I have to tell you, see, I have a little thing here. This goes on every section. This goes on, well, not just this number. I number every 9 square section. I know who has made that section. The one I'm wearing right now is Rindy from Indiana, Kathy from Indiana, Annette from Colorado, Becky from Louisiana, Karen from Pennsylvania, and Marta from Texas. And the ones back here, I know who's made those because I tag that, because these people have gone to that effort, and I want to honor their effort by making sure their names. I actually have two people I have to acknowledge. I have Laura, and Laura's from Italy. And she's from Peru, but she's living in Italy. And she found my cause and has mailed me squares from Italy. She also was interviewed by a Catholic magazine, online magazine. And so, of course, it's in Italian, but I did do, between her translations and my transcribing, there is an article that I put on the website as well that can talk about her efforts. But then I've got to acknowledge Mary. Mary from Alabama, and that's what I do. I normally just use their first names in the state they're from. Sometimes we have a little state competitions going on, and I'll tell you in a minute something about that. I mean, I could talk about this stuff for a long time. I guess you gather that. Mary, and she doesn't mind, I'm sure, her last name being used in this case because she puts it up there on Facebook and everybody knows who it is. Mary Holcomb has made over 1,000 squares for me. She can make about 3 a day, and she sends me, anywhere from 30 to 50 about every 10 days or so. And everybody, so she's up there. We're all just cheering her on. There's been people that have helped her out by sending her yarn and everything because she is phenomenal. Nobody has come close. But I will say, and please, anybody listening from there, I'm trying to avoid the actual reason I'm saying this. Can you guess what state has pledged the most?
I would think it would be one of the southern states, but I really can't imagine which one.
California.
Really, California?
Yeah.
That's beautiful to hear.
Okay. Everybody understands that's listening to this, I'm sure, without saying too much. It's a big surprise. I've also received the most so far from California, not counting Mary. Mary is her own state. She's a total entity to herself. I don't count hers as Alabama. I count her as Mary's.
So that's beautiful to hear.
Anyway, I think that pretty well covers, and I would love to hear from people. I really would.
No.
I just give a little boost on this, and 20%, 80% pledged over a year. And so I know if I'm trying to get them all by September, And hopefully with a little local help, I live in Northwest Arkansas, hopefully with a little help, I can get some more people to help me assemble them, because I stay pretty busy assembling all this stuff.
I'm sure. Thank you so much, Carol, for just sharing
thank you.
all of this
Thank you.
and for the work that you're doing. And thank you also to all of your participants who have sent you.
Oh, yes, yes.
Especially Mary.
Yes, all of them, all of them. Every square is precious.
Every square very much is. Every stitch is precious. And
yes,
this is such a beautiful and life-giving represeration of all the lives that have been lost. So
those sirens must be you, because they're not me. I live in the country.
But thank you very much.
Thank you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to interview me on this.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.